Chapter 1. In the 70s, my wife found herself a soulmate. Both university lecturers, they exchanged explicit letters daily. In my dreams, you entered me. Waking, I still trembled with bliss. She denied the affair, haughtily claiming it was merely a meeting of minds. While we may not share common ground, I can refrain from divorcing you. Head held high, she announced her charity towards me. I wasn't worthy of understanding their noble emotions. Perhaps I should consult the university leadership, ask if this bullshit connection was truly so pure? Did a university education make them superior? Northwestern University's honors program was recruiting top science talents. This time, I wouldn't sacrifice myself for anyone. It turned out Victoria and Silas Thorne had gotten involved 3 years ago, only a year after we married. Silas's trousers were stained with grease. Victoria's delicate hand brushed back and forth between his legs. Through the glass, I saw the repulsive bulge in his groin. Caught red-handed, Victoria reluctantly returned to our home life to protect Silas. What do you like about him? Victoria, back turned to me as she read, stiffened. Her voice was tight with irritation. How many times do I have to say it? I didn't do anything with him. I picked a disgusting grub off a vegetable leaf. But did you want to? She slammed her book down, furious and ashamed. Sincere Ashton, I'm back. What more do you want? She slammed the door behind her. A tremor ran through me, my hands numb from clenching them too tight. Half an hour later, she pushed the door open, forcing a strained, tolerant smile. Sincere, the university is holding a New Year's gala. Will you come with me? She never took me to university events. I had cautiously probed before, but she always cut me off impatiently. Are you going to recite poetry or deliver eloquent speeches? What, now she wasn't worried about my lack of eloquence? My mind filled with sarcasm, but I kept silent. A sharp bone from the fish head pricked my tongue. I crushed it fiercely between my teeth and swallowed. All right. She breathed a sigh of relief, eagerly placing a piece of fish belly into my bowl. She even thoughtfully picked off the shredded scallions from the fish. Halfway through, she stopped abruptly. I liked scallions. It was Silas who didn't. Awkwardly, she withdrew her chopsticks, shoveled rice into her mouth and mumbled, I'll do the dishes today. Miracles never cease. The high and mighty lady offering to wash dishes. Without a word, I turned and went into the study. The day Victoria returned home, she insisted on sleeping separately. I need time to calm down. You can sleep in the study for now. Rage surged through me. I nearly ground my back teeth to powder before forcing out quietly, unsaving yourself for him? She froze, frowning, her gaze cold. Do you have to make it sound so ugly? It's not what you think. That looked disdain, contempt. But tonight, Victoria quietly slipped under the covers beside me. Sincere, you are still my husband. Her voice was muffled. Her very breathing seemed reluctant. A cold little hand slipped inside my pajamas. I was still her husband, so she was fulfilling her wifely duties. As if this were some unavoidable compromise, a precious gift bestowed upon me. The old window let in a draft, filling my heart with desolate cold. You're really putting yourself out. My words cut through the air like a knife. Her hand froze on my waist, unable to advance or retreat. Chapter 2. Victoria gritted her teeth, her voice low and furious. Sincere Ashton, what exactly do you want? Son, how many times have I apologized? Isn't it enough? Do you bear no responsibility for how things turned out? I didn't know what I wanted. I only knew the thought of her and Silas was unbearable. The first time I saw Silas was a small photo tucked inside a book, Silas Thorne. As I read the name on the back, Victoria snatched the photo away. A new colleague. I'll return it tomorrow. I suspected nothing. A new colleague's quite handsome. Skin fairer than a girl's. Lost in my observation, I didn't notice her staring at the book, the page unturned for a long time. Didn't notice. We're not close. She casually slipped the photo into her trouser pocket. A month later, I brought Victoria some sweet pastries. Unexpectedly, someone was in her dorm room. "You must be Mr. Ashton. I'm Professor Beaumont's university classmate. Just transferred here a year ago. Silas Thorne?" The photo was a blur in my memory, but his sickly pallor had left an impression. "Victoria mentioned me." Silas smiled in surprise. "Victoria." My nerves frayed. Intuition struck hard. They were classmates, but she clearly said they weren't close. Before this, I had never suspected Victoria would do anything to betray me. Back home, I pried open the locked drawer, a thick stack of letters. I sat in the study reading them all afternoon. The letters detailed a burning, painful infatuation. They discussed literature, debated poetry, shared secrets. The air crackled with flirtation and overwhelming affection. They proclaimed their emotions pure and untainted, never crossing the line, a higher form of human connection. Victoria called Silas her soulmate. "And Silas, I dreamt of you last night. You entered my body wildly, nearly shattering my soul. Victoria, you invaded my dreams, softly enveloping me, responding with passion. I trembled as I released." The last letter contained only a small note. "And transferring from middle school to the university, successfully staying on you helped me behind the scenes, didn't you? You desire to keep me close, just as I do, right?" Below it, in Victoria's handwriting, "And keeping you near is my obsession. I'm glad I was promoted to professor. It's the only solace in this." Over 200 long letters, spanning from 3 years ago until now. A fierce gust of wind suddenly blew the window open. Rain lashed my face like cold slaps. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, that none of this was real. It must be Silas seducing Victoria for career advancement, a misunderstanding, a conspiracy. I had to confront her. In a small eatery near the campus gate, Silas picked the rich filling out of some dish for Victoria. Girls look better with a bit more weight on them. "Eat up." The filling accidentally rolled off. "Oh dear, your trousers are dirty." She cried out softly, gently wiping the spot near his private area again and again. Silas's face tightened with suppressed arousal, the tension in his groin visibly apparent. Young people nearby hooted and cheered, banging the table loudly. Silas pretended to eat a kebab. "To lamb skewer is really spicy. You can't handle spice, give it to me." Victoria casually took the skewer and finished it in a few bites. Silas intimately wiped the corner of her mouth with his finger. My fingernails dug into my palms, drawing blood. I had traded the jade pendant my grandmother left me for half a bag of white flour, 1 steamed bun a day, sliced and toasted dry. I'd go hungry myself to bring those fragrant toasted bread slices to her. The stomach I had painstakingly nursed back to health for her. Now, for Silas, who couldn't handle spice, she was downing skewers covered in chili powder, bite after bite. Rage incinerated my reason. I rushed forward, yanking Silas away as he leaned close to Victoria's ear. "Victoria." Chapter 3. My roar echoed. Victoria stared at me, shocked. "Ah!" Silas fell, his palms scraping against the rough concrete. Victoria gasped, crying out instinctively. "And Silas." Ignoring me, Victoria rushed to cradle Silas's hand, checking the injury. Suddenly, a fierce force shoved me hard. I stumbled onto a table, a wooden skewer embedding itself in my brow, mere inches from my eye. A harsh voice snarled, "Where did this madman come from? Are you looking to die?" Clutching my head, I felt warm liquid trickling down, blurring my vision. Through the red haze, I vaguely saw Victoria running towards me, distraught. I truly felt like a madman, yelling uncontrollably. Bastard had lost. I staggered home, the world spinning. I woke up in the hospital, the images flooding back instantly. Tears escaped my tightly shut eyes. My life, it turned out, was this unbearable. "You're awake?" Victoria asked solicitously, an apple half peeled in her hand. My lips moved, my voice barely a whisper. "Get out," Shame flickered in Victoria's eyes. Sincere, you misunderstood. I slapped the apple from her hand. In the ensuing chaos, the knife fell vertically along with the apple. Ah! The tip plunged directly into the palm of my hand. Blood instantly stained the white sheet. Dr. Victoria screamed in panic, tears instantly welling up. Leave. I don't want to see you. I pulled the knife out and threw it on the floor. She trembled, pressing down on the wound in my palm, tears splashing onto the bed sheets. Sincere, rest first. I'll explain everything later. I laughed bitterly. I'd explain what? The love letters you two wrote fill an entire large drawer. A flicker of panic crossed Victoria's face. She fell silent for a few seconds before managing difficulty. We never did anything to betray you. Does it only count if I catch you in bed? My voice was sharp. Other patients and nurses turned to look at us. Victoria's face went white, her eyes filled with profound disappointment. That look wounded me even more deeply. A sharp cramp seized my stomach. I had to curl up, the pain momentarily blanking my mind. Victoria, however, seemed to think I had calmed down. She stated numbly, and Silas lost a whole patch of skin from his hand. The doctor said it will scar, but he's being very magnanimous, said he won't press charges. Don't worry. She turned and left the room to find the doctor, when the patient's emotional distress triggered intestinal spasms. Prepare for surgery immediately. I sank into darkness under the anesthesia. After surgery, I was plagued by nightmares. Each time I woke, it took a few moments to remember that my real life had already collapsed. Aunt Martha came, sighing and sincere. Victoria was definitely wrong this time. But she swore to me. She never had a physical relationship with that man. My aunt looked pained, holding back tears as she tried to persuade me. You just had surgery. You can't get too emotional. Why not let it go for now? Focus on getting better, then decide. My parents were old revolutionaries who passed away early. Aunt Martha was like a mother to me. My mind was a chaotic mess tangled in knots. Divorce? We met as teenagers, in adolescence. She would secretly slip me a boiled egg during breaks. On summer nights, under the hazy moonlight, she'd play a soulful tune for me on her violin. During our time in the countryside, no matter how hard or tiring, how little food there was, how endless the work felt, she would tell me a passage from Dream of the Red Chamber after I finished my labor. All fatigue vanished in those moments. 10 years of affection, the person I'd cherished since youth. Everyone urged me to calm down, to forgive Victoria. They implicitly agreed it wasn't worth making such a fuss over. But inside me there was a hole, bleeding day and night. Chapter 4. That night, restless, I went downstairs for some air. By the flower bed I saw Victoria crying on Silas's shoulder. I can't bear it, I really can't. Silas held her. Victoria, why can't we correct a mistaken marriage? A roar filled my ears. I rushed towards them. I punched him square in the face, and chasing another man's wife right to the hospital? Do you think I'm dead? I rained blows on him, completely out of control. Enough. Cine said, stop. Teeth sank into flesh. Victoria bit down hard on my shoulder. Pain forced me to stop. Victoria threw herself onto Silas. She cupped his face, crying, How are you? Does it hurt? Tell me where it hurts. A crowd had gathered around the flower bed, murmuring loudly. Victoria's eyes were bloodshot with anguish. She looked at me with utter disgust. I swear on my deceased father, Silas and I are innocent. Our connection is purer than water, completely devoid of anything sordid. Sincere Ashton, this isn't the first time you've caused trouble and made baseless accusations. Silas was magnanimous and didn't hold it against you, but you've only gotten worse. If you can't let it go, then fine, I'll grant your wish. Divorce. I thought my heart was already shattered. Turns out it could hurt even more. The onlookers started murmuring again. This man is terrifying. What wife could stand him? Since she swore on her dead father's name, they're innocent. Poor, refined man getting beaten by this lunatic, totally undeserved. The pointing fingers and judgmental whispers washed over me like a tide. Silas looked up, pulling her closer, a defiant smile directed at me. Suddenly, I calmed down. From the moment I opened the first letter until this very second, I finally, truly calmed down. Clutching my shoulder, I stared intently into Victoria's eyes. In divorce? I don't agree. As the words left my mouth, thick resentment flashed in Silas's eyes, his jaw clenched tight. I smiled bitterly. So many debts, they needed to be settled one by one. Back home, an eerie calm settled between Victoria and me. One day she sat on the sofa, lost in thought, the evening shadows blanketing her face. Sincere, I want to talk to you properly. What do you want to talk about? After a long pause, she finally spoke. Anchi and I admit my mistake towards you. Regarding Silas, I did develop feelings beyond those of a colleague. An iron clamp seized my heart. This woman had absolutely no awareness of how she had trampled on me. However, don't you bear any responsibility in this matter? I sneered. Am I responsibility? She seemed utterly exhausted. You used to be someone with knowledge and ambition too, but I never imagined you'd stoop to something as humiliating as sucking up to the dean's family. This woman, she had offended the department head with her arrogance and fallen into despair. It was only because I got along well with Uncle Marcus that the dean even noticed her. Now that she was promoted and enjoying the benefits, she turned around and accused me of embarrassing her. Besides, is what happened between Silas and me truly so unforgivable? We merely had a collision on a spiritual level. I took a deep breath, a very deep breath. But Victoria, oblivious to the insult, grew increasingly self-righteous. Can promise you I won't, Barack, can promise you I won't divorce you. But Silas is depressed every day now. I hope you can apologize to him. Chapter 5. It felt like I'd never truly known her. Was the girl I fell for at first sight as a teenager, the lover who shared hardships with me in the countryside, this brazen woman standing before me? I laughed. Turns out, when utterly speechless, one really does laugh. Or want me to apologize. To the man who wrecked my marriage? Her lips tightened. She raised her voice. And he's not the kind of person you think, quite the opposite. Although we fell in love, he never intended to replace you. In fact, he often advised me that not having higher education wasn't your fault, but a limitation of the times. But you utterly humiliated him. He's still in his dorm room with a fever right now. Shouldn't you apologize? Victoria finished her impassioned speech, panting heavily in my silence. I got up, switched on the light, and turned to face her. Fine. Take me to apologize to him. Seeing her surprised expression, I gave a self-deprecating smile. Could you call for Teacher Thorne? Silas lived in a shared dormitory. Victoria knocked and asked her roommate to fetch him. No need. I suddenly pushed the door open and walked straight in. Silas, lying on his bed, sat bolt upright in fright when he saw me. You. What are you doing here? Sincere, come out, we can talk outside. Victoria was anxious, but she couldn't easily enter the men's dorm and could only whisper warnings from the doorway. I walked over to Silas's bed and raised my voice. My wife insisted I come apologize. To show sincerity, it's better to do it in front of everyone. Silas panicked, stammering, No, that's not necessary. Really. Tranquilo, but it is otherwise. My wife will divorce me. The dormitory housed 6 other young male teachers, now all silent as mice. My voice was calm, each word clear. I shouldn't have presumed to read the letters you sent, Victoria, desecrating the pure, untainted love between you. That was wrong of me. I apologize. And after all, you are so noble. You entered her body in your dreams instead of actually rolling into bed together. I shouldn't just apologize. I should thank you. Thank you for writing love letter after love letter to a married woman, leaving the household leftovers for me. Sincere Ashton. Victoria roared from the doorway. Silas, I don't know where you get the audacity to have me apologize. Seducing another man's wife, and you think you're in the right? My awareness is low. I can't comprehend such noble feelings. So, I specifically wrote apology letters to your university. The leadership will surely be able to thoroughly understand you both. Bastard, you dare, Silas shouted furiously. Get out here. Victoria could bear it no longer and rushed in to pull me out. I shook her off and slapped myself hard across the face. See? I was wrong again. I'll punish myself. Since I haven't received higher education, I only know how to be direct. Shaking my stinging palm and your letters, I couldn't understand them, so I sent them to the dean's office too, asking them to translate. Are you two truly a pure, untainted couple, or just using spiritual connection as an excuse for utterly immoral intentions? Victoria looked utterly stunned. Her face was ashen, like a crumpled piece of discarded paper. Chapter 6. The university acted swiftly. Victoria's chance for promotion to department head was revoked. She received internal criticism and was demoted from professor to lecturer. Silas's position at the university was rescinded. Fearing he might actually attempt suicide after making threats, the university temporarily assigned him to help out in the cafeteria. After countless hesitant moments, she finally spat out angrily, "Are you satisfied? I don't owe you anything now." Then she grabbed her packed bag and slammed the door behind her. The 3 days off the university granted me passed quickly. I returned to work in the library. After helping the last borrower, the lunch hour was already over. By the time I reached the cafeteria, few people remained. There was a corner between the vegetable and meat sections. Holding my lunchbox, I stopped short. Victoria stood outside the serving window. The person serving her inside was none other than Silas. "Victoria, you've lost weight." He stood there blankly, his eyes seemingly full of unspoken words. Silas held out his hand, revealing a burn mark on the back. "Your hand," Victoria gasped. Silas said pitifully, "Victoria, I never thought the hand that held a pen would now be covered in the stench of fish." Victoria's eyes reddened with distress. "And Silas, just endure it a little longer. Once this blows over, I'll find a way to get you transferred back." "Really?" "Victoria, back in my village, everyone knows I'm a university teacher. It brings honor to my parents. I can't go back. If I go back, how can I face them, those farmers who toil day in and day out?" Tears streamed down Victoria's face. She vowed, "Don't worry, I will definitely find a way to bring you back. Just wait patiently for me." Victoria, I'll wait for you." I didn't get lunch that day. I returned to the library with an empty lunchbox. For Silas's sake, Victoria came back. "Then sincere, Ashton, I can overlook what you did before. I can come home, but I have one condition." Victoria's face was frosty, exhaustion mingled with cold indifference. I put down the calculus textbook I was reading and looked up, lips curling with sarcasm. Let's hear it. Who do I have to apologize to this time?" Suddenly she sank into the sofa, burying her face in her hands. "Sincere, we once loved each other. 10 years. For the sake of our 10 years together, for the love we once shared, can we just... Turn the page on this, please? Turn the page?" In the cafeteria, she had just fervently promised Silas she'd help him. What page had been turned? But I nodded, as if agreeing. I dedicated all my freed-up time to studying. Years ago, for Victoria, for our family, I gave up the chance to go to university. 10 years later, reality finally slapped me hard across the face. My efforts, my sacrifices, she had taken them for granted. She forgot that before we were sent to the countryside, I was the top science student in our entire school. Through my Uncle Lawrence's connections, I learned that a university in the Northwestern, was recruiting a special batch of top science students. All I had to do was pass the exam in 3 months. I had to seize this precious 3-month window, reviewing my studies while enduring her insincere return. like the revulsion I couldn't suppress when her hand tentatively reached inside my pajamas. But she had someone she needed to protect. I harbored plans I couldn't let go of. The next day, we both, unprompted, returned to a state of calm. She asked calmly, "Unton University's New Year's Gala is tomorrow. Do you have time to go together?" Right. The New Year's Gala was held in the university auditorium. All eyes were on me, looking me up and down. How could Professor Beaumont marry such an inconsiderate husband? And it was just exchanging letters. It's understandable for intellectuals to have a confidant. The teacher Thorne worked so hard to become a lecturer, and now this guy ruined it, sent him to serve food in the cafeteria. If I had such an unreasonable husband, forget an affair, I'd have divorced him long ago. In the eyes of most people, Victoria actually appeared loyal and wronged, victimized by a brutish husband. Chapter 7. After Dean Ainsworth received the complaint letters, Uncle Marcus specifically called me over. Sitting in his wheelchair, he placed the letters in front of me. "Sincere, are you sure you've thought this through?" I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. "Everyone tells me to endure it. Are you telling me to endure it too, Uncle?" He looked out the window and sighed. "You don't have to endure it." Tears nearly spilled over. Since this happened, everyone had told me to endure. Finally, someone told me I didn't have to. However, plan before you act. You need to figure out your next step first. And even a disabled man in a wheelchair like me insists on reading and staying informed every day. When there's an important provincial meeting, they even send people to ask for my advice. You, a top science student, guarding a university library, yet all you know is to cook dinner for your wife after work. His words made me ashamed. Yes, I had wasted so much time. When Victoria graduated, I had the chance to apply for university, but she told me then, "Sincere, 4 years of university. I can't bear being away from you for that long. Besides, once you graduate, we might not be assigned to the same place. Do we want to be separated forever?" For her, I once again extinguished my yearning for university. I lowered my head, whispering regretfully, "Uncle Marcus, my age. I can't get into university anymore. Opportunity favors the prepared. Don't be so quick to say there's no chance. Ask yourself, are you prepared?" His gaze was sharp, meeting mine directly. I froze. It was as if a dusty window had been shattered by a hammer blow. Was I prepared? All these years it was I myself who had wasted them at Sincere. The only person one can truly rely on is oneself. I left the dean's house in a daze, sleepless that night. As the first rays of sunlight touched my face, the fog before my eyes finally cleared. After getting up, I called my Uncle Lawrence in the capital and told him my decision. I expected him to scold me, but after a long silence, his steady voice came through the phone. "And Sincere, your uncle supports you. Your Aunt Martha means well, but her perspective is limited. Don't blame her. Uncle wants to tell you, think, act, don't fear the unknown difficulties. Uncle will back you up." Hanging up the phone tearfully, I gathered study materials from the library and began preparing for an opportunity I didn't yet know existed. Someone burst a balloon, the pop jolting me back to the present. I looked around and noticed Dean Ainsworth and Uncle Marcus sitting quietly at a small round table. "Uncle Marcus." I jogged over delightedly. Uncle Marcus rarely attended university events due to his mobility issues. Seeing me, the dean smiled at Uncle Marcus. To Dad, "Is this the young friend you often mention?" Uncle Marcus nodded at him and extended a hand to me, pulling me down to sit. "Young Sincere, I owe you thanks. Since making friends with you, my father's spirits have lifted considerably," the dean announced to everyone. "This is my father's friend despite the age gap. He's quite mischievous, often leaving tricky math problems. If Dad solves them, great. If not, I'm the one who suffers, racking my brain over math homework after work." The dean laughed heartily, and everyone, shocked, could only follow suit. They thought I was just an uneducated handyman who fixed pipes, or a self-debasing sycophant, including Victoria. But Uncle Marcus's actions, the dean's words, all indicated their warmth and fondness for me. I whispered, "Oh, Uncle, what are you doing here?" He patted the back of my hand, lowering his voice conspiratorially like me, and came to back up my young friend. He beamed, his palm dry and warm. My eyes stung. I blinked hard to hold back the tears. Chapter 8. Just then music started. The crowd parted, revealing the person standing center stage, Silas Thorne. He wore a black, form-fitting dance leotard, looking aloof and sorrowful. To the mournful music, he adopted an expression of sad pride, raising his arms, spinning, leaping, arching his chest. He was like an injured black swan, every gesture conveying his grievance and unwillingness to accept his fate. Amidst applause, he approached, stopping not far from the dean, and performed an elegant bow. I watched coldly. He stopped just a step away from where Victoria stood frozen, whether by chance or as a subtle provocation from a pretty boy. My dancing wasn't great. A poor showing for the leadership, he said softly. The dean asked with interest, "And you are? Are you doing this intentionally?" Uncle Marcus cut the dean off, his voice stern, face serious. Silas clearly hadn't expected this, his face showing helplessness. But Uncle Marcus remained unmoved, frowning deeply. "Are you intentionally displaying your graceful dance and flexible legs in front of me, a disabled man?" The entire hall fell silent. Even I held my breath. Silas flushed crimson, gesturing helplessly as he tried to explain, No, I didn't really, that wasn't my intention." In the auditorium, everyone's gaze focused on him. Silas's voice grew quieter, repeatedly glancing at Victoria for help. Victoria's lips moved, but under my sarcastic gaze, she ultimately lowered her head and said nothing. Silas's face filled with disappointment and hurt, as if he were the injured party. The current atmosphere is quite poor. The masculine vigor of our Chinese men is being made all soft and mushy by some people, Uncle Marcus remarked, seemingly genuinely angered. Silas looked left and right, no one dared speak up for him. Meeting my eyes, his eyelashes suddenly fluttered, his eyes reddening. "Mr. Ashton, taking this opportunity today, I apologize to you." He gave a reluctant yet elegant bow. "And I admire Professor Beaumont, admire her knowledge, respect her talent. That's why I said some things, spontaneous expressions of admiration that hurt you. I'm sorry. As the saying goes, judge actions, not intentions. Judge by intentions, and no one is perfect. Her body belongs to you, but her heart belongs to herself, as does mine. I beg you to be lenient. Teaching at the university is my dream. Please don't extinguish the hope in my life." He spoke pitifully, looking very much like someone bullied to the breaking point, yet still forced to apologize. Tears shimmered in Victoria's eyes. Everyone looked at me as if looking at a bully persecuting an intellectual. I gave a cold laugh. "The hope in your life, wasn't it you who extinguished it?" Silas looked at me incredulously. "You pride yourself on being highly educated, talking to me about judging actions, not intentions. But being a teacher isn't just about imparting knowledge. It's about shaping character. You so righteously express your spontaneous feelings for a married woman. If your values are taught to students, how many innocent families will be harmed in the future? Ask yourself. Shaping character, are you worthy?" My words shot out like arrows. Silas staggered back, his voice choked and trembling. "Not that I've already apologized, and I've been punished. Must you drive me to my death?" His frail posture was quite effective. The young man Leo Vance, who had pushed me before, couldn't help muttering, "Forgive where you can. Being so aggressive is just too malicious." I followed the sound and recognized him. "And you were the one who pushed me down that day, weren't you?" He shrank back guiltily, surprised by my directness. "You suddenly attacked someone that day." I was just acting out of a sense of justice." So today you're also acting out of a sense of justice? I pointed to the faint gray scar on my eyebrow. Satisfied with the medal you awarded me for your help, Chapter 9. Leo Vance's face flushed scarlet. He stammered, "Sorry, I didn't mean to. You're fine now, but Silas's whole life has been ruined by you." I looked at the crowd. Led by Leo, the younger people nodded in agreement. Clearly they sympathized with Silas, and Victoria, her gaze was fixed on Silas, her face full of pity. I shook my head helplessly. I had hesitated, but now. I took a stack of letters from my pocket and casually handed them to a middle-aged female teacher nearby. "You don't dare question the university leadership's decision, so you gang up on me, the victim. Why is the wrongdoer sympathized with while the injured party is blamed? And since you enjoy playing judge so much, let everyone take a look." Instantly, whispers swelled into a buzz. Eager individuals were already distributing the pages, vying to read. There were too many letters, I had only brought a few. Unable to wait for them to be passed around, someone started reading aloud. "Deep within my soul, a voice declares you are my wife, my partner." Heavens, knowing she has a husband, how could he say, wife, partner? So young and shameless. But didn't they say it was just sharing study insights? What study insights? This is too vulgar. Look at this one. "And dreamt of you last night, like a fire beneath ice, I entered your body, galloping wildly." Oh my goodness, how embarrassing who writes things like this in letters. Exactly, if this were my son, I'd break his legs. Look, there's more. "Hair entwined, fulfilling my unspeakable desires. Regret not meeting before you were wed." Tisk, tisk, tisk. Although the reader lowered their voice, everyone strained their ears, listening intently despite their expressions of disgust. Victoria and Silas had managed to continue working at the same university, because most people only knew vague details, assuming they were just slightly too close. The leadership couldn't reveal the true reasons discreetly, so I would. Victoria's face filled with panic, visibly paling. Silas was white as a sheet, forcing himself to question me loudly. "Mr. Ashton, how could you? You opened someone else's private mail, that's illegal." Uncle Marcus, who had disapproved earlier, signaled for me to retrieve the letters. He addressed Silas firmly. "Us young Silas, wasn't it? I advise you to speak cautiously." Never mind that he read his own wife's letters. If the contents of these letters are true, simply forwarding them to the police station would be more than enough to charge you with indecency. Hearing this, Silas looked as though he'd been struck by lightning, swaying on his feet. If he were actually charged with indecency, his life would truly be ruined. "Professor Beaumont, do you also believe your husband illegally opened your private mail?" Facing Uncle Marcus's piercing gaze, Victoria's face stiffened. "No, it wasn't." The crowd erupted in murmurs again. Those who had sympathized with Silas moments ago now rushed to distance themselves, spewing harsh words, face full of righteousness, but turns out he's utterly immoral. Wrecks someone's family, then plays the victim everywhere. So dramatic he should be on stage. "Sin I didn't see earlier. Tell me about it later." Oh, I can't bring myself to say it. Every word feels dirty. Without exception, everyone looked at Victoria and Silas with contempt. Utterly humiliated, Silas finally ran out of the auditorium. Victoria followed me home, her face numb. "Sincere Ashton, you promised me this would end here." I switched on the light. The filament in the bulb flickered a few times, like our relationship, on the verge of collapse. "So what? Let's get divorced." I smiled and nodded. "All right." She froze, as if a long speech was caught in her throat. "Tomorrow's Monday. You don't have classes in the morning. Perfect timing to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau." As I spoke, I pushed the marriage certificate, already placed on the table, towards her. Her eyes widened, lips trembling, her voice squeezed out between clenched teeth. "Was you had this planned all along?" I let out a long, heavy breath. "That's right. The day you stood in the cafeteria promising Silas you'd get him transferred back, I had it ready. Pop, the light bulb exploded. Before darkness enveloped us, all I saw was Victoria's deathly pale face. Chapter 10. Unexpectedly, Victoria refused a divorce. That night, I gathered the photos that included her and took them to the balcony to burn. She suddenly rushed out from her room and snatched the burning photos from the fire basin with her bare hands. The photo was half consumed by flames. She held it, trembling violently. In the picture, we were only 16, wearing the army uniform my uncle had given me not to enlist, but to follow Victoria to the countryside. Back then, ignorant of the harsh fate awaiting me, my heart was filled only with reckless devotion to love. I smiled at the camera. Victoria looked at me with eyes full of deep affection. Tears dripped onto the photo. Victoria tried to wipe them away with trembling hands. Tears mixed with ash, smudging it further. She suddenly turned and slumped to the floor. Sincere, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I don't want a divorce. Looking at the weeping woman before me, I felt a sense of unreality. She had occupied my entire youth. I once thought she would fill my whole life. Career, future, I could give them all up, wanting only to grow old with her. Now, only sighs remained. "It's too late," I said softly. Victoria jolted violently. She wouldn't look up, slowly wrapping her arms around her knees, sobbing too hard to speak. After what felt like a long time, her voice came out muffled and desperate. "Sincere, I don't want a divorce. Without you, I don't know how I'll manage. I never intended for anything serious with Silas. We just wrote letters, talked. He said he admired me, looked up to me. I lost my head, I was vain, I was wrong. But I never thought you would leave me. Sincere, I admit, I lost my way for a moment. I didn't mean it when I mentioned divorce, I was just angry at you. I thought you would definitely try to keep me. Please don't divorce me. I promise I'll never see him again, I promise, please, I'm begging you." She buried her head in my lap, tears soaking my trousers. "Victoria, some paths once wrongly taken cannot be retraced." She broke down, her body shaking violently, whimpers escaping through her fingers, gradually turning into anguished wails. I stood up and returned to the bedroom, leaving her alone in the darkness. Victoria hid the marriage certificate. She seemed to have found a new purpose in life. In front of me, she burned all the letters. Every day, breakfast was already on the table when I woke up, different varieties each day, always things I liked. She met me after work with an umbrella when it rained, brought me extra clothes when the temperature dropped. I still had studying to do. I didn't have the energy to waste on this. Victoria stopped the pointless efforts. Her hand, holding the soup ladle, paused, then continued as if nothing happened, "And I simmered this chicken soup for 3 hours. Look at that thick layer of yellow fat on top, very nutritious. Drink up." It was always like this. Whenever I brought up divorce, she either pretended not to hear or her eyes would well up with tears. My patience quickly ran out. Unable to bear it any longer, I sought out Silas in the back kitchen washing vegetables. Since the gala fiasco, Silas had lost even the privilege of serving food at the window and could only do menial tasks in the back. When I found Silas, he was squatting on the floor washing a large basin of pig intestines. His hair was disheveled. His cheeks were so thin they looked sunken, cheekbones sharp enough to pierce the skin. There was no trace left of his former refined appearance. "You ruined me like this. Are you satisfied?" His icy gaze held undisguised hatred. I paused for a few seconds, organizing my thoughts. "You'd rather wash pig intestines in the back kitchen than leave the city, leave the university? Guess I just don't want to go back." He scrubbed the intestines furiously, gritting his teeth. "Actually, there are many ways to stay in the city. You could try a different one." He slammed the intestines back into the water with a thwack, shouting angrily, "Easy for you to say the university canceled my position. My personnel file was sent back to my hometown. It's impossible for me to find a job in the city. What do you expect me to do? What else can I do? Silas, what are you doing, taking this long to wash? If you delay dinner, you're fired. An angry shout came from the kitchen. Resentment instantly surfaced in Silas's eyes. Acting all effeminate day long, can't even do a simple task properly. Must save all your energy for seducing people. The person in the kitchen didn't know I was there. The ugly words carried loudly. Silas trembled, his face pale, and sat back down resentfully. The weasel paying respects to the chicken up to no good. I'm already miserable enough. Won't you leave me alone? I wasn't angry at all. If you want to stay, there's a way right in front of you. Chapter 11. After requesting leave from the university, I packed my bags and boarded the train. Traveling to Northwestern University for the entrance exam required a week, including the round trip. Upon returning home, I immediately went to see Uncle Marcus. Uncle Marcus looked hesitant, like he had something difficult to say. Uncle Marcus, is there something you want to tell me? He hesitated for a moment. Young sincere, sit down. I was curious. What could make the experienced Uncle Marcus so reluctant to speak? His next words indeed opened my eyes. On the third day after I left, Silas's parents, Harold and Agnes Thorne, had caused a scene at the university. They stormed into Victoria's office. His mother let out a wail and started crying hysterically. His father stood beside her, shouting curses, saying Victoria ruined his son's career. If she didn't take responsibility, they'd file complaints city level, provincial level, even central government if necessary. His parents clearly looked like farmers, probably couldn't even write their own names. To speak so coherently, who do you think coached them? My eyes widened. Silas had really gone all out. So, what did Victoria say? Uncle Marcus looked at me suspiciously. I knew my calm expression must seem unnatural, and she didn't say anything. Later, a contact at the police station filled me in. Apparently, Silas asked Victoria to meet for a farewell. Somehow, they ended up at a cheap motel. Just as planned, Silas's parents burst in and caught them in the room, crying, hitting. The motel owner called the police. I had to admire Silas's audacity for coming up with such a scheme. I couldn't help but add, and the police arrived. Found a man and woman in a motel room. Victoria had no choice but to admit their relationship. Uncle Marcus nodded. Exactly. After getting away, Victoria wanted to back out, but would they let her off the hook? That's when they brought the fight to the university. I stood stunned for a long while. That day I told Silas there was a way to stay in the city, though skeptical he had asked how. I had said, if you can get Victoria to marry you, you can stay in the city legitimately. I had merely wanted to escape this sticky, disgusting marriage quickly. I never expected he would gamble everything, risking self-destruction just to trap Victoria. I found it somewhat unbelievable. Before I left, Victoria had sworn oaths to me, promising never to see Silas again. Just 3 days later, they ended up in a motel bed together. Their earlier vows of purity and innocence, their supposedly noble and fearless love. Motels, illicit affairs, staged entrapments, held up to the mirror of reality, whether it was spiritual connection or confidant. It all revealed its true, ugly form. In that moment I, the resentful husband, actually felt a sliver of pity for those two. Young sincere, are you all right? Meeting Uncle Marcus's concerned gaze, I took a deep breath. I'm fine. I was already mentally prepared for divorce. It's just, I smiled helplessly, and just didn't expect two people who considered themselves so noble would end things in such a disgraceful way. It's a bit poignant, that's all. Victoria and I finally divorced. The house was allocated to her by the university. I didn't want it. She didn't want the money in our savings account. She gave it all to me. The day I packed my things to leave, her eyes were red the entire time, but she didn't say a word. She had kept the half-burned photograph. I saw it but said nothing. I heard Silas was completely fired from the university, but he no longer cared. He, along with his parents, moved into Victoria's house. They didn't even host a reception, just got the marriage certificate secretly and considered themselves married. Victoria was also transferred from her teaching post, becoming merely a proofreader at the university journal. The work was light, but promotion was out of the question. Chapter 12. However, none of this concerned me anymore. Half a month later, staying at my Uncle Lawrence's house in the capital, I received the acceptance letter from Northwestern University. My Aunt Martha, who had been sighing secretly, finally beamed, her face clearing up like the sky after a storm. I took a long walk outside, feeling the vastness of the sky and clouds, my spirits soaring. The heavy stone in my heart had finally been lifted. The path ahead was clear. Those troublesome people and events, leave them behind. They had nothing to do with me anymore. I had climbed out of the mire. Sunlight awaited me on the road ahead. After starting university, I spent all my free time in the library, not leaving until closing. The honors program was full of talent, the professors titans in their fields. I was like a sponge, desperately soaking up knowledge, absorbing, digesting, and absorbing again. Sincere Ashton, you got first place again in the midterms. Congratulations. I took the exam paper. 99. A pity, just 1 point short of a perfect score. Meanwhile, miles away at Victoria's University, she was living through the fiery trials of her new life. Silas's reputation was ruined. Fired from the university, he couldn't find decent work. His parents from the countryside weren't leaving either, claiming to be caring for the pregnant Victoria. The whole family crammed into her house. The study became the elderly couple's bedroom. Victoria's books were piled haphazardly in a corner of the living room. Yes, Victoria was pregnant. After becoming pregnant, Victoria rapidly gained weight. Yellowish-brown spots melasma dotted her cheekbones. She looked nothing like her former self. Right now she was sweeping the floor, heavily pregnant. Silas's mother, Agnes, lay sloppily on the sofa, cracking sunflower seeds. Victoria, I heard bird's nest soup is good for coughs. My throat's been bothering me lately. Why don't you find someone to buy half a pound first? I'll try it out. Victoria silently swept the sunflower seed husks off the floor. Silas's cousin says he wants to move to the city too. Find him a job. The broom in Victoria's hand stopped mid-air, her numb expression betraying immense restraint. Her mother-in-law babbled on, oblivious. His father keeps saying his eyelid is twitching lately. Take leave and take him to the hospital for a proper checkup. Also, Sanch, will you ever stop? Victoria suddenly threw down the broom, her voice low, furious, and suppressed. Your whole family expects me to support them. I'm just a proofreader now, with a fixed salary of $58 a month. Where am I supposed to find money to buy you bird's nest soup? Huh? And what about all those distant cousins, second aunts twice removed, random relatives popping out of nowhere? They all expect me to take care of them. How can I? Tell me how. Professor Beaumont, once known for her gentle and quiet demeanor, now had a face twisted with rage, showing none of her former grace. Not yet 30, in less than a year, she had been worn down, appearing years older with deep exhaustion, dark circles under her eyes, and pronounced nasolabial folds. Who cost my son his job? You did, you female hooligan. Her mother-in-law leaped off the sofa, grabbed a handful of sunflower seeds and threw them in Victoria's face, screeching insults. My son lost his job. How can he support us? It's all your fault if you don't support us. Who will? After shouting, she started wailing dramatically. Silas's father, Harold, burst through the door. The old woman clung to him, dry, heaving sobs without tears. The old man kicked over the dustpan, spewing vulgarities, saliva raining down with his foul breath. You shameless hussy, you ruined my son. Ruined our whole family, you curse-bringing bastard spawn of 8 generations, can't keep your own legs closed, and you dare yell at your mother-in-law. I'll teach you to shout, shout, shout. His large, calloused farmer's hand slapped Victoria across the face again and again. In the chaos, Victoria was powerless to fight back. Chapter 13. "But Dad, don't hit her face. She has work tomorrow." Silas returned from playing cards. His mother quickly pulled the old man away. But Victoria, seeing stars, was already bleeding from the mouth, her face bruised and swollen. The old woman, Agnes, hypocritically took Victoria's hand. "Daughter-in-law, my son, a university graduate, married a second-hand woman like you. Our hearts ache for him. You need to compensate us properly. That bird's nest thing, if you don't have money, why don't you ask your mother? As the mother-in-law, she can't be so stingy." Victoria stared at this family in shock, unable to accept it. "Sham. Shameless," she screamed, breaking down. "Utterly shameless. Isn't it enough that you're dragging me down? Now you're targeting my mother. Your whole family is utterly shameless. Victoria." Silas's face darkened. His father jumped up and down, shouting loud enough for the whole corridor to hear. "And who's shameless? I think you're the most shameless. These things, you'll do them whether you like it or not. Otherwise, I'll go to the university and report you, accuse you of elder abuse." During breaks and after meals, Victoria's situation became everyone's favorite gossip topic. The next day, Victoria went to work hiding her bruised face, claiming she had accidentally bumped into something when colleagues asked. "Those marks on her neck are clearly fingernail scratches. What kind of life is Professor Beaumont living?" Colleagues didn't expose her to her face, but gossiped heatedly behind her back. Sincere was so good, steady, reliable. Professor Beaumont's clothes were always perfectly ironed. Now, the speaker pursed their lips dismissively. She found herself a male seducer, and his whole family latched onto her like leeches, sucking her dry. The hard times are just beginning. Sinai heard Sincere got into the honors program, specially cultivated by the state for major research projects. Who's to blame? Didn't cherish such a good husband. Treated a rotten watermelon like treasure. She's just reaping what she sowed. Victoria heard every word her colleagues said. Regret gnawed at her insides like millions of ants. She fled, escaping on her bicycle from the university. Cycling home almost in a trance, she suddenly awoke with a start. Sincere had already left this home. Before, Sincere would always have light, delicious meals ready, waiting for her return. Under the warm yellow light, Sincere kept the home tidy and orderly, never even letting her wash the dishes. "You're back. Tired today? Dinner's ready. Must be hungry." Every time she pushed open the door to this scene, all her fatigue would melt away. But now, this warm home, without Sincere Ashton, was such a mess. On the windowsill was a small plum blossom plant. Usually inconspicuous, it released a fragrant aroma when it bloomed. Sincere had brought it home preciously on their wedding day, watering, pruning, caring for it meticulously. He had said, "Victoria, you are this plum blossom. One day you'll fill the branches with fragrance. I will fully support you. I love you." Now, the plum blossom was squeezed into a corner of the balcony by clutter, devoid of life. Perhaps it would never bloom again. Victoria sadly turned her bike around, returning once more to the cold, deserted proofreading office. The campus pulsed with youthful energy, but her heart felt old. No one waited for her at home anymore. Sincere, such a good man. She had personally thrown him away. Chapter 14. Time flew by. 3 years passed. I was admitted directly into a prestigious graduate program in the capital. Simultaneously, due to my strong expertise and success in cracking several complex problems, a classified project recruited me exceptionally as a team member. Aunt Martha was still as fond of nagging. "Already 30, still studying? Can you study for a lifetime? Juanine, you still need to find someone. Scoundrels like Victoria are rare." Speaking of Victoria, do you know what happened later? Aunt Martha's topic switch was so abrupt I froze. Victoria. The name felt distant, foreign, belonging to someone I had long forgotten. Oh, it was quite dramatic, let me tell you. Aunt Martha forgot about her food, slapping her thigh, recounting with gusto. Victoria gave birth to a boy. At first, her mother, Helen, was overjoyed, incredibly pleased with Silas as a son-in-law. She gave him money, treasures. The old lady almost gave him her house. She often paraded her chubby grandson around, bad-mouthing me, the ex-son-in-law, saying my fortune was weak, unlucky, fortunate that we divorced. Later, when the child was 1 year old, he kept having unexplained high fevers. Tests revealed the child had leukemia. Victoria's home turned into a war zone, battles erupting daily. They blamed each other's bad genes. Victoria couldn't fight them off alone. Her mother and brother, David, came to help but were beaten up by Silas's gang of rural relatives. Everything in the house was smashed. Victoria was pushed down the stairs, suffering a shattered kneecap. Not long after, Silas ran off. He left with an older Hong Kong woman he met at a dance hall. Silas took all the family money. Victoria, burdened with debt from her child's medical treatments, still hasn't paid it all off. "Impa serves her right karma," Aunt Martha added emphatically, stomping her foot for good measure. I listened, dumbfounded. Such a dramatic plot even movies wouldn't dare script it this way. Back then, Victoria was the first among the sent-down youth to get into university, once full of ambition and envied by many. To end up in this situation, I didn't know what to say. The phone rang. It was my university class monitor, Isabel Moreau, nicknamed the Iceberg Goddess by classmates, a mathematical genius. "Sincere Ashton, I've accepted the invitation for the semiconductor chip research and development project. I knew this project was a national priority. Only top talents could participate. Congratulations." I was genuinely envious. Silence on the other end. "Hello? Hello, Isabel? Sincere Ashton." Her cool voice trembled slightly. My ears suddenly felt a little itchy. "I'll be waiting for you in the capital." She. What did she mean? My face flushed hot. The cicadas in the yard shrieked desperately, proclaiming the heat wave of life. They seemed to say, half a lifetime may have passed, but youth isn't over yet. Not yet.